Hi everyone, this is Arcadius and welcome back to Naval. I will now be returning back from my break. I did enjoy it, thank you, and I hope you all had a great time as well. And now we are coming back into the swing of things, and where we left off, we were talking about a bunch of ships that had the possibility of coming out, as well as the new event that came out right as I stopped recording. So, for the next week or two, we'll be looking at some the event missions as well as some other ships that have come out or have been previewed, I should say, that we are now able to have in the game. So we're going to go all over those in a moment, but there is a little bit more information on a couple ships that are currently not for preview in the game. So we're going to take a look at some of those pictures in a second. Alright, so the first one is the Japanese battlecruiser B-65 designation. It never had a name. In World of Warships, it's called Azuma. I don't think this one has torpedoes, so it's not going to be Yoshino, which is the one that has torpedoes. So I am going to call this one Azuma when it does come out in the game. There is no further stats, but we do have a picture of how it will look in game. So you can see you have the 310mm guns arranged in an ABX format, as well as the Akazuki 4-inch gun turrets on either side. Pretty standard setup. I'm actually expecting quite a few good things from this ship. I'm actually really excited for this ship. It may not be the strongest one, but it seems to be quite fun as well. And then we also have a picture of the Maine. Now, if you remember correctly, this is that super American dreadnought with 5 triple 18-inch guns, an entire Omaha on each side, and torpedoes to boot. So we have a picture of her. So this is what she's gonna look like. And she actually looks pretty decent. It's not the exact dreadnought image that you can find on Google or something like that. So it looks like it's a more modernized version of her. And honestly, she kind of looks like a Vermont, if you're also familiar with that World of Warships ship. Except you have an additional turret. So she's even stronger than that one. Obviously, you can't see the torpedo tubes, but they should be underneath the A turret, or just about that. And then we have a smattering of 40 mils and 20 mils along the superstructure. I honestly expect this ship to have the worst anti-aircraft rating of all top-tier battleships, even worse than H-42, by probably a considerable margin, honestly. So this one's just going to be food for aircraft carriers. If you see this ship and you're in a carrier, just automatically go for it. There's no obviously surrounding ships, because there's nothing it can really do against you. I'm really curious on what its speed is going to be like. I want to say about 26 knots, maybe 27 like a Yama, but it could also definitely still be the 21 knots that most of the dreadnoughts of this time frame when it was being designed had. But we will see. You can see here you have 8 secondaries to a side. On the schematic, there are 6-inch guns. And if you actually count the gun barrels, it's exactly an Omaha. So between the turrets and the casemates, our entire broadside on the Omaha is 8 6-inch guns, or at least fully upgraded. So you literally do have an Omaha to each side. So we'll see how that works out. Can't say anything about the range, but honestly, you don't really want to be inside a secondary brawl with this ship. I doubt she's going to turn very nice. So we have those 2 pictures so far. And honestly, I am really excited for both of these ships. And I did expect this one to come out relatively soon, within like the next couple months or so. This one, I thought this was going to be a longer time. Since they didn't really have any information, they didn't know how we were going to get it. All we had was a picture and some stats. So this one might come quicker than you might expect, and I'm really excited for it. Alright, now back to the game. Alright, so there has been quite a few interesting things that have been added to the game in the last couple weeks. So first off, we're going to go to the Russian line. We have the ability to have Rostislav and Ekaterina. So I do have both of these ships. These are actually really powerful ships. I was kind of scared after playing Navarino, because I didn't want the same kind of gameplay as this ship, because this ship is just really, really lacking. I don't know what is so good about this ship that makes it worthy of ever playing her. We'll review her more once we actually do the battleship line. I'm kind of deciding whether or not I want to wait for the World War II-ish line to come out before I do Russian battleships. I haven't decided yet because I have all the Dreadnought line, but I don't have any of the World War II line, obviously, because they're not out. That being said, Rostislav with her 3 quad 16-inch guns is very, very good, and if you don't already have her, trust me, you really want her. Then Ekaterina with her 4 quadruple 16-inch guns is just really, really fun as well. And we will actually see both of these ships in the event that we will be starting today. It's actually quite similar to the last event that they tested ships in. So the last one they tested Russian cruisers, because those were the ones that were coming out at that time. This event, you have Russian destroyers, you have Russian cruisers, and you also have Russian battleships, and you have the occasional FDR, or Coral Sea, how it's in the game. But you also have quite modern ships. So, like I said, we'll go over more of that later on. I've already completed the entire event, so I know exactly what to expect, and I can tell you what to expect as well. Alright, so we have Rostislav and Ekaterina. Nothing else for the Russians at this time. Now, there's also been a sister ship that has come out, and honestly, this is one of the best sister ships that they've ever had. So it's for the Yamato refit, or if I have renamed her Akaishi. It is the Wave of Kanagawa, a very, well, to me, famous woodblock print from a Japanese artist, and it's honestly one of my favorite, if not the favorite, painting that I ever known. I literally have an entire tapestry of this on my wall. So it's an amazing, beautiful ship, and it makes me love the ship so much more than what I had before. I mean, it wasn't the best ship, it was pretty much just like a Yama with 1 or 2 extra things. But now with this camo, I love the ship so much. Alright, let's see here. New ships. We have a couple of ships that we can preview. And the first one we're going to look at is Hiraga, which is that 8.8 matchmaking Japanese battleship that is coming out for the extended line after Amagi. So we would have Amagi, and then we would have Hiraga, which is very, very quite considerable size difference. So we can kind of get a look at our stats now. We have the 2 twins, 2 triple, 4 10mm guns, or 16s, 16.1s, I think. And then we have a couple, I'm assuming these are actually 8-inch guns on the side. So you have 8-inch secondaries, which there's only one other ship in the game that has that, and that's H-42 with the Hipper class main gun turrets on either beam. She has 6 of those. So this one actually has 4 twin, like I said, I'm assuming these are 8-inch. I can't actually confirm that. And then we also have some secondaries as well. Well, these are optional secondaries, I guess you could say. It looks like that doesn't have any. If these are indeed 8-inch guns, then this will be a very, very strong secondary ship. However, I also am inclined to believe they might just be souped up 6-inch guns. Well, we'll have to see. Regardless, you have a couple more secondaries up here. These are your main AA defense, honestly, right there. And then you have a seaplane, and then you have a couple AA guns here and there. So as expected, you have your main guns, you have a couple beam secondaries, and then nothing else. But we can kind of see the stats here. I have not compared any of these stats to the current tier 8.8 or 9.0 battleship, so I don't actually know how they reflect, but I can see that the damages look to be pretty decent. Yeah, so we'll take another look at this. 7.0 kilometer secondary range. I think Yama's 7.2. So a little bit less, but like I said, you really don't want to be anywhere close with this ship. And then 26.5 knot speed. I did actually expect a little bit faster speed because these were supposed to be replacements for Congo class battleships. Ooh, that's interesting. The B turret catapult disappears if you zoom out or zoom in. Alright. Yeah, these were supposed to be Congo battleship replacements, and they could do at least 30 knots. But they obviously didn't have 16-inch guns either. So that might be how that balances out. We will look at her more in depth once she actually is released. And until then, we just look at her in our report. Alright, next. We have Robin, which conflicting information said she was going to be at a 5.9, then she was going to be at a 7.0, and then she is previewed as a 7.0, so I'm assuming that's where they're putting her. And it's literally an illustrious carrier with American aircraft. It already comes with a camo, which is pretty nice. It's going to be a free XP ship. Don't know how much right now. I have not compared any of the stats to the current tier 7 carriers at this tier either, but she will definitely be better at 7.0 than 5.9, I'll tell you that. So we'll have to see how she performs as well and how she compares. But she does look very nice. I do like the camo. French. I don't think French get anything. Yeah, they didn't get anything. But the Germans have a preview of their Tier 7 destroyer. Now, this ship has actually already changed twice. Well, I should say once, because when she first came out, she had 5 twin 5-inch guns. She had 10 5-inch guns. And as a Tier 7, you go up against the Sims, which is 4 5-inch guns. So it was a major power difference. And I'm not quite sure why they did that. Maybe they just didn't have the models for the turrets. But regardless, they did switch them out for the update afterwards. And we only have the 5 single 5-inch guns. And this ship looks to be amazing. If you just kind of look at the stats real quick. Alright, so we have the 5-inch guns. 5 of them pretty decent. I'm expecting good armor piercing damage. Like I said, I haven't done any stats comparison, but it looks pretty decent. Everything seems to be pretty good. 9.5 kilometer torpedoes is actually going to be actually really good, because the only ships that have 9 kilometer plus torpedoes that are not Japanese is the Americans, I think, at 9.2. Or at least with one of the sets of Sims torpedoes. The other one is 5.5, I'm pretty sure. But Akatsuki gets 12s maximum, and then Fubuki gets 15s kilometer torpedoes maximum. So having a 9.5 kilometer is obviously not going to be the best, but it's going to be pretty decent. It's the 3rd farthest. And then a really good rate of fire as well. So you'll be able to toss torpedoes up pretty decently. And you have 8 of them, so you're not even lacking in that regards either. Good guns, speed of 37 knots, so she's not going to be slow either. And then I'm pretty sure they confirmed it. They're going to have hydroacoustic search on this ship. So she'll be a really good destroyer hunter. And honestly, a cruiser hunter too. If you get a broadside and you have armor piercing loaded, you could definitely get some good chunk damage and maybe even some citadels. Ships or cruisers at 7.0 are not exactly very strong. You have like Atlantas, well, that's it. Well, technically Pensacola's. You have Graf Spes, you have Nurembergs, Hippers, ships around there. So you'll definitely be able to do some good damage with your guns as well. AA, I'm not expecting too much. You can see a couple mounts on the deck. But yeah, this is not going to be a very strong AA ship, but she's not supposed to be, so that works out. This will be a prism ship, so she will be able to grind free XP when she does come out, and I am very excited about that. Let's see here. Italians. Giuseppe Garibaldo. This is one of the event ships that you can earn. This is the last event ship, actually. There's 2 of them. This is being the second one. This ship is actually really fun. If you haven't completed the event yet, you still have some time to do it. I think you still have like 2 weeks or so. But this one is definitely a ship to kind of grind for if you don't already have her, if you're not inclined to. The other one, Canada, she's nothing special, honestly. But this one's a really fun ship. You can have a lot of good games in her. Well, she'll have her own video too after we finish all the event videos. Let's see here. Pangia did not get anything. Canada, Like I said, she's just kind of a mix between an Iron Duke and a New York, though she's not as strong as you might think. She's very, very, I want to say balanced would be the best term, but I feel like basic is a better term. Um, but again, she'll have her own video. We'll go over her and see what we can do with her. And I believe that is it for all the new material. And that brings us to today's video on the first mission for the event. Now, I have always used special and premium ships in my events to show you that it can be done quite easily with those ships, specifically Illinois. I really love Illinois in my events because I just use the secondaries for laughs, and I sync everything with just secondaries, even if it takes me 15 minutes. It's still fun. But I'm going to try and actually use tech tree ships for this event to show you that you don't need a special ship in order to beat these events. So today I'm going to be using H39 or Frederick de Cruz. I have renamed her Hanover with the new skin that came out not too long ago. We haven't been able to use this skin, so I thought I'd show it off a bit. And we're going to show how we can beat this first level. Alright, so a little bit more about the event. We did talk about her briefly, but it was only speculation because I hadn't actually played any of the event yet. And now that I've cleared it, I can tell you what to expect. So you have 5 missions to clear before you can reach the final levels, and then you have Lightweight, Earnest, and Ultimate. So for these first ones, you're going to run into Russian destroyers, Russian cruisers, Russian battleships, including one that we haven't seen at all yet, that being the top tier World War II branch, Kremlin, or Project 24. We see her later in these missions. We'll see her later this week. And then you also have the occasional Frederick de Roosevelt, or the Franklin de Roosevelt. And I don't think there's anything other than that. We do see Katarinas and Rostislavs, but those are already released, so there's nothing really new. But you can see how they are armor-wise when we shoot them. And then for the final missions, my predictions, or at least based on the pictures, were correct. You do go after super carriers, you do go after nuclear battle cruisers, and you do go after Cold War / modern era missile destroyers. And they do shoot anti-ship missiles at you, and they hurt a lot. They really do. Also, you also have a Stalingrad. So this is different from the Moskva or Project 66 that is currently in the Ring Point shop. This one looks extremely overpowered and fun as heck. Basically, it's a pocket battleship, I would say. It has really, really good guns, really good shell velocity. Its armor is actually pretty decent as well. And it's got something like 13 kilometers secondaries, I swear. And they go like straight for the superstructure and do a ton of damage. I was in a Montana, point blank, because that's one of the missions is what it is. It shows up at like 3 kilometers away from you. I couldn't even load armor piercing. Well, I had high explosive loaded first, but I reloaded armor piercing. And by the time my armor piercing was loaded, I was already at half health. And that's how strong those secondaries were. It was ridiculous. And if that's how the ship is going to be when hopefully she's released, because there has been some information on her. We've seen a couple pictures in the port or something like that. If that's how she's going to be, I really, really want that ship, because that's going to be a very, very powerful ship, especially for arena. So first, today we're going to do stage 1. So let's toss into a battle and see what we can do. Alright, so we have 2 Ismails, we have a Molotov, 2 Kiros, and 3 Leningrads. So nothing too strong, and we have a Ranger on our side, a couple New Mexicos, and a couple Omahas. High explosive loaded, but we're going to change that. Alright, so I do have buffs applied, so this is not the ship that you get when you first purchase her, but this is something that you can eventually reach if you have enough buffs added. So it's speed buffs, health buffs, reload, fire chance, all that jazz. Secondary damage. But this is still just a normal tech tree ship. So we're going to head out. You're first going to run across the 3 destroyers, and then the cruisers are going to come from this side, and then the battleships, they kind of come around this island and are kind of a pain to deal with, but nothing too serious. And so secondaries are opening up. I do have all my German battleships equipped for secondary brawls or full secondary build, which honestly is just a lot of fun. If I get a little bit closer, I can pop my hydroacoustic search and permanently spot these destroyers. But I think my hydro range is 6.0, so you're gonna have to wait a little bit. And now we're gonna pop it. We should be seeing that 3rd destroyer in any second now. But in the meantime, we're just gonna whittle away these other destroyers that are already in range. And there goes one. Alright, so that other destroyer was spotted at 6.2, so I think it was the aircraft that found her. But it doesn't matter anymore, because my Hydra is still active, and my secondaries are still shooting. And all of these ships are going to be sunk in a matter of seconds. Cool, I didn't have to shoot a single shot from my 16-inch guns. But now we have the cruisers. Now it actually looks like there is some variation, because I actually played this mission right before this video, and the cruisers came from right to left. And now they're coming from left to right. So it looks like there is some slight differences. I don't have any eyes. Oh, yep, there we go. We have eyes on the battleships now. So they're heading this way. I'm not too worried about it. Also, I do have torpedoes if we do need them. But I highly doubt that. Though we could always just rush one of the Ismails with torpedoes for laughs. And actually, that sounds like something I'm going to do. Because there's really no reason to lose this mission. Obviously, I'm using a pretty high tier battleship, but you don't really need one. I'm just using it because I kind of wanted to use the ship. Alright. So secondaries are opening up on both of the cruisers now. With plunging fire, that'll do a ton of damage. I'm gonna toss some of my 16s in there just for good luck. There we go. Now these cruisers and the destroyers, well, just technically bot ships in general during events, will launch torpedoes at you. In randoms or bot games, most of the time they just don't. Or if they do, it's like point blank and there's nothing you can do about it. But in these games, they will toss torpedoes your way. So you do have to be careful about that. Now my hydro is down, so I won't see it very quickly. So that's why I'm kind of maneuvering and getting some distance between myself here. Molotov is going to go down. Ismail is still pecking away, though I'm bow in, and she only has 14-inch guns, so she's definitely not going to overmatch my bow. She might get some overpen damage on my superstructure, but besides that, really nothing at all. And I just slap her back with a Citadel. So Russian dreadnought battleships don't really have a lot of superstructure, so they're not going to take a lot of secondary damage. That is one of, I guess you can say, advantages. It kind of works out. I mean, you don't have a lot of superstructure, so secondaries, you're not immune to secondaries by any means. You're still going to take damage. It's just not as much as something as, like, let's say an American battleship, or a French battleship, or even a German one. It's very, very limited. So there's 4 more shell hits. I don't need my hydro now, even though it's back online. Let's toss some torpedoes out this way. One thing that I did notice about the battleships, specifically Katarina and Rostislav, is don't underestimate their speed. One thing that I keep doing is I keep thinking that they're dreadnoughts, and I'm giving enough lead for about a 20 to 25 knot ship. Well, they can honestly get up to 30 knots, so you really have to give some pretty decent lead. There's one torpedo hit. And we're going to get some more. I wonder if we're going to get this kill. Yep, there we go. And then we're just going to finish up this Ismail as well. Going to pull our rear turrets to the side. And finish her off there. And with that, that concludes the first event. It's really a walk in the park, no matter what kind of ship you use. You can even use like an Omaha and still do pretty decent. Obviously, it's going to be a lot harder, but not impossible. So 219,000 damage, 7 ships sunk. I think that was actually all of them. Let's see, 3 cruisers. Actually, nope, I missed one. There's 2 battleships, 3 cruisers, and 3 battleships, or destroyers. So that's 8 ships total, but I sank 7 of them. 27 shell hits, 3 torpedo hits, 4 citadels, 8 fires, 1 flooding, 278 secondary hits. 79,000 damage in armor-piercing 16-inch guns, 28,000 damage in fires, and 78,000 damage in secondary, so almost exactly the same for main and secondary. And then torpedoes did 33,000 damage as well. The only ship we did not sink was one of the Leningrads, but we did quite a bit of damage to her instead. So yeah, that's the first mission. Like I said, pretty much easy. It does get harder, obviously, the higher tier or match mission you go, but we'll go into those for the rest of the week. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all tomorrow while we go over the second mission for the event. So again, thank you and take care.